Hello everyone, my name is Bailey and today we're wrapping up March. I read 22 books in March and I have a couple others I'm going to talk about that I am partway through that I'll be bringing into April. So without further ado, let's get into it. There's so many. So first up we have books I have some mixed feelings on. So first one, I think this the lowest rated book maybe of this year, definitely of this month, was Why I Am Not Going to Buy a Computer by Wendell Berry. This was interesting. It's not that I hated it by any means. I gave this 3 stars. It was okay. It was interesting, but it's a little dated. And you know, what can you expect? He was in like the 70s. So, but overall, I mean, it's cute. It's a really cute edition and I thought it was interesting, but I just didn't have strong feelings on it. Also, this is just an essay, so you might be able to find this online if you're interested in reading it. The other book I kind of mixed feelings on is American Born Chinese by Jean Luen Yang, and I like this book. It's definitely like 3.754 range for me. I thought the storytelling was really cool. There's like several elements in here that kind of, the way they merge is so interesting. And I really like he, in this short little book, short graphic novel, packs in so many different stereotypes. And I think that's really like interesting and cool that he could fit so much in a small YA graphic novel. However, I do think some of the stereotypes, it's definitely like for a specific audience, that I think if some stereotypes, if they're, because either they're outdated or people aren't familiar with them, then people don't realize it's satires. So I'm not exactly sure how I feel about this. I would say it's a solid 4. I read this for a YA lit class, so I think it just, the context of how you're going to teach this book is really what like sets the mood. I know some people love this, I didn't really connect with it as much. And next we have books that were enjoyable. These were like solid 4 books that I enjoyed, but I didn't like love. We'll get to those. First we have Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. This is my first book of March. I read it on audiobook all in one night. It was like 10 hours and I read it all in one sitting. It was gripping. I don't read many thrillers, so I found it like really gripping and really wanted to know what happened. There's like a couple of really interesting twists that I thought was really cool, and yeah, it was just a really solid YA thriller about a topic that is really real, and kind of when one of the twists gets revealed, it's just devastating, but also, I don't know, it's satisfying, I guess, the way that things go, and just knowing. And I like that it's a really messy story. There's some characters with kind of morally gray, and I really like that. So I think that was really cool. So I overall really enjoyed reading this one. Definitely, if you're interested in this book, check out the trigger warnings because there are many, and it was a little intense. It's a little intense. Next we have History of Wolves by Emily Fridland. This is a reread. I read this in the year it came out and I like loved it at the time. I was like, this is a new favorite. And I do understand why I loved it at the time, but as I read it now and I started to remember like the things that were going to happen, it just wasn't as impactful. So I think this is definitely one that like is really good first read, but isn't like one you can really keep coming back to. But I think I enjoyed this one. I love it as much as the first time. I think her writing craft is incredible, and I loved all of the characters were so like morally gray, and I love that in a book. So I thought that was really cool. The commentary on religion was really interesting. Overall, really solid book. The next book is The Ex-Girlfriend of My Ex-Girlfriend is My Girlfriend by Maddie Court. I don't love that title, I'm gonna say that, but I am thankful to the publisher for giving me this ARC ebook, and I did really like this book. It was super cute. It's basically like an advice column for queer women and sapphics and non-binary lesbians. I mean, all sapphics, women-loving people are included, and it was really cool to just read about different situations. This is definitely something I think would be a great book to give to like young queer people that are recently out, because it covers a lot of ground in this it's a pretty short book, covers a lot, and from dating to like coming out, but also like dealing with toxic relationships and friendships, and it's just really like nice celebration of like queer happiness, so I really liked that. And I gave this a 4-star. It was a really solid book, and I think, yeah, it'd be a great gift for somebody. Next, I read Real Life by Brandon Taylor. This was really solid. The writing was incredible in this book. I just personally, I thought I would connect with it more than I did, which I think is why I rated it lower than I expected. I guess I thought this was gonna be 5-star, and it's more like a 4, but you know, that's fine, and I still really liked it. Solid book. I thought it was so interesting because it all takes place in one weekend, and it is about a black man at PWI. He's a graduate student, and just he's gay, and he's just navigating all these different barriers, whether it's people's assumptions about him because he's black, because he's gay, because he's from the South, and they're just super interesting to read about. I thought the story was really beautiful. Solid literary fiction right there. Next is A Good Kind of Trouble by Lisa Moore Ramey. This was a really cute middle grade. I vlogged reading this one, and it was just really nice, and it was a super layered story about that I think is really timely right now for our youth that are trying to navigate politics and like political identities, and how identity can become politicized, and how certain groups can become like, I don't want to say divisive, but for instance, like how other POC groups cannot see their own anti-blackness because they think they're absolved from that by being people of color. And so that was just like a really interesting conversation to see played out among like 12 and 13-year-olds. And besides like that conversation, there's also like just the general conversation of middle school and like changing friends and relationships. And I really like the parents were super present, which isn't always the case in middle grade or YA. They're going off in adventures. I'm like, girl, where's your mom? So I really like that this one, the parents were definitely really present. There's a great sibling relationship, and so I loved all of that, and it's a really solid middle grade. Would highly recommend it. Next, we have The Other F Word by Angie Manfredi. This was a super cute book. I'm definitely not the audience for it, but it's a really nice YA book, really geared towards fat teens, and I vlogged this one as well. It's really like a kind of partly self-help, talking about being very encouraging to like live your life and, you know, wear what you want, but also like some practical tips about like where to shop or how to start loving yourself more. And yeah, it was just really nice book. It just warmed my heart, and it's really nice to know there's books like this available. I would again highly recommend this one. Next, I read Ace by Angela Chen. This was super interesting. I feel like despite my degree in sexuality, there's really a lack of education about asexuality within my education, so I was really interested in picking this one up to learn more about it. And I loved that Angela Chen really nuanced take, and different chapters were devoted to different people's like intersectional identities and talking about how like being a woman and being ace is different from being a man and being ace, and how like men, because of toxic masculinity, are taught to perform sexuality, and when you don't have that, it's really hard, versus like women who are also racialized, talking about disabled people, and how, you know, for years the disabled community has really tried to show the message of like, we do have sex, and then there's ace disabled people who are saying actually no. And so I thought it was super great, super nuanced takes, and was just really great, really educational. So I highly recommend this one if you're looking for education, or if you're ace yourself. I think it would still be a really interesting book. It's less about just being ace and like what that is, and it's more about how sex interferes with our society and how sexualization impacts different groups. And so you know, we only all have our own experience, so I think this would be great for anybody that's interested. The next book was The Queen's Gambit by Walter Tevis. This was so good. I still haven't watched the show. I wanted to read the book first. The book was phenomenal. I don't know anything about chess. I know a little bit more now, but it was so interesting. It was very fast-paced. It was incredible. I mean, the first chapter, she's like 8 and like addicted to drugs, and I'm like, oh my god, where is this going? I just loved how fast-paced it was, and I loved the audiobook. The narrator was really great, and it was just a really like nice story, and I just love to see, like, watching someone succeed is so satisfying. So I thought it was really cool, and yeah, I highly recommend this one as well. Next, I am going to talk about Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I feel weird rating this one because it's such a personal book. It's like a letter to his son. However, this was absolutely 5 stars. It was fantastic. However, it is just in the ones I enjoyed because I just personally couldn't really connect with some pieces of it, slash I didn't necessarily find it all that like revelatory. A lot of it was stuff I've heard before, known already, so I can't say that I personally loved it, but I do think it was an amazing work, so I highly recommend. I think everyone should read this book. Next, Nature Poem by Tommy Pico. Love Tommy. He's so cool, and this book was so good. I listened to it on audiobook, which I highly recommend because it just feels like you're there, and you get so much more out of the experience because you can hear his vocal inflections, you can hear how he means certain words, and I think that just makes it better. And it was just like such a good poem and so cool, and how just the different themes and how they would reoccur, as well as like the poetic style he used and his writing style is something really cool that I really enjoy. So if you like poetry, I would really recommend picking Tommy's stuff up. I've read 2 of his collection, or 2 of his poems so far, and I've really loved them both, so highly recommend. And last book in this section is The Hen Wars by Adiba Jagidar. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but this book was so layered. I thought going in it was just gonna be like a cute little sapphic romance, and I was like, I can get behind that, and it was so much more in the best way. It was so layered, and so many good conversations around cultural appropriation, around what it means to be part of a culture, what it means to be racialized. And I thought it was really interesting that it's set in Ireland, which I found later after looking it up. The author is from Ireland, so that's like why she lives there. But I didn't know that going in, so I thought that was just really interesting for a setting. And I really like that all the characters had growth. There's a really great sibling relationship between the main character and her sister. Was so cute and so pure. I loved it. So this was definitely recommend for a YA sapphic thing. Alright, now getting on to the books that I loved. There's quite a stack here. First, I'll talk about The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. I read this in my vlog as well, and I read this for school, hence all the little page tabs. And I read this before, and it was just as good as I remembered it. It was so good. I love Elizabeth Acevedo. This is a really solid book, fantastic book, incredible. Her writing, beautiful. So, and it's in verse, if you didn't know. So, it's really quick read and really impactful. I love it so much. What else is there to say? Another book that I loved, Sapphic 2, Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. This was really fantastic. I would say, I think I only rated this 4 stars, but I loved it so much because the main character I just really related to. She's really just trying to figure out her place. She's got a PhD in astronomy, and she's really just trying to figure out where she belongs and how to make space for herself in a field that doesn't want people like herself. And I thought that was just heartbreaking and also so relatable. Because of this stress, she goes and gets married to a stranger in Vegas, and they decide to stay married and talk. And so I just loved the I think some people are kind of under the impression that this is like a fluffy romance, and there definitely is romance elements, but it's much more about our main character Grace and about introspection, and her really is trying to figure out where she belongs and her place in the world and how to make herself happy versus making other people happy. And it was just really incredible. I almost cried during part of it, so we love it. We love it. We stan. Morgan Rogers, also a debut author, so I will be thinking of her in the coming years because I really want to read more from her. Next, I have Keep Going by Austin Kleon. This is the last book that I read in March. Really cute book. This is also a reread, and I read this for the Buzzwordathon because good times and bad, it says. And I just love it so much. There's these cool like spreads. It's not just a book. There'll be like poetry or sketches or whatever, so I think that's really cool, and I just love Austin Kleon. The video I just most recently posted, I'm wearing a shirt from that says Keep Going on it because I love him. I love this book, and it's great if you're any sort of creative type person, if you're a writer, artist, musician, whatever. I think his books are definitely staples, and I feel like this book is really for everybody, especially right now during COVID. It's really just about learning to stay creative, learning to keep yourself sane, self-regulate, and we all need some of that, right? Next, I'll talk about Clara in the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. This was so good. I feel like it's pretty divisive. People either really loved it or they really did not / didn't get it, but I totally, for once, I got it. I got the metaphor, and it was incredible. I'm a huge fan of Never Let Me Go, and I think if you like that book, you'll like this book. If you don't know, this is about an AI. In this world, they call it an AF, for artificial friend. And AI is basically like you buy them for your children just so that they like have a friend. And this one's name is Clara, and it starts out really about her life at the store, like living at the store with other AIs, and then eventually she gets bought and is taken home, and her life with this family. And it was just so, it was so cool. I think it is a little slow paced, so keep that in mind. However, there's something that happens like 2/3 of the way through the book that after that I could not stop turning pages, because after you get this like little twist, everything changes and you're like, your paradigm completely shifts. And so I just love this. I really want to read more from this author because wow, incredible. And the writing was really cool too, because I feel like he really captured how an AI would think, and so I thought that was really cool. And next I'm also going to talk about Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. Finally read this one. This was so good. I gotta say, On the Come Up I think is still my favorite of hers, but this one, I don't know, I'd almost say it's a close second, but I love all her books. It's hard to rank them, but this was so cool. This, if you don't know, is about spin-off kind of from The Hate U Give, about Star, the main character's dad, Maverick, when he is 17, and he learns that he's a father, and just how him going through life in his final year of high school. And it was just so good. Her writing slaps, and I loved all the characters in here. They were all just so lovable, and Maverick himself is the best. What a great book. So I highly recommend this one. Please check it out soon, and I hope this is official. For 3 books from her, I'm an Angie stan for life. And then the final books, we've got Whites on Race and Other Falsehoods by Otega Uwagba. This was incredible. It's just a little essay talking about white performative allyship, and I think it was really great. I hope more people read this and listen to what she says, because it's really about how white people need to be willing to give up their privilege. It's not enough to just recognize it. You need to be willing to dismantle the system and give up your own privileges in order to make things equal, because it's how equality works. So thought that, and there's just so many cool like hot takes in here that I loved. This was written following the George Floyd protests, so this is a very, very recent, very timely piece, because especially right now, as I'm filming this. So I really recommend reading this one soon. It is so timely and really gives some insight onto some of the events and phenomenon that we saw in the summer. Next, I have Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. One of my favorite books of this year, I'll say it. Incredible romance, and I just loved the autistic representation in here. It was so well done, and I just related so much to Eve's character. The 2 main characters, Eve and Jacob, are just so lovely, and their romance is incredible. Some steamy scenes as well. So overall, Talia Hibbert just can't miss, and I want to read more of her stuff, read through her backlist. I also just can't wait to see what else she writes, because now that, as sad as it is that the series is over, I'm really excited to see what else she has up her sleeve. And my final books I loved are both graphic novels. We have Are You Listening by Tilly Walden and The Magic Fish by Trung Le Nguyen. I'll talk about this one first. So Are You Listening was beautiful. I think the illustrations is really what makes it pop. Like, hello, that's beautiful. So I really liked that. The art in here was so pretty, and then I also just really liked the story. I love Sapphics and becoming friends, and there is a kind of a story thread talking about trauma, and I think that was really impactful, and the way it was done was just like so heartbreaking. So overall, incredible. I can't believe I've read all of Tilly Walden's work now. I can't wait to see what she writes next. And finally, The Magic Fish. Incredible. Y'all, I can't even explain to you. Again, the art is beautiful. It's just so... Ooh, okay, that's not a spoiler. And I just am obsessed. I'm obsessed. I just think it's so cool. And this is about a boy in the 90s. He's Vietnamese American. His parents have immigrated, and he is learning. He's trying to come out to his family, but there's a huge language barrier there because he mostly speaks English and they mostly speak Vietnamese. So he's like trying to figure out and how to tell them. And there's also this thread of fairy tales that's really beautiful. So and their shared love for storytelling. So that was really nice. I highly recommend it. And then the two books that I am bringing into April is Kink, a collection of stories edited by Ara Kwan and Garth Greenwell. I don't know what to say. I just am bad about reading short stories. And the other one, these actually look really good together, is The Curious History of Sex by Kate Lister. And this is really good. It's really cool. There's a lot of pictures that are really interesting. I can't show you any of them. I don't want to get censored, but it's really cool. It is an absolute brick though, so that's why it's taking me a little bit. But I will definitely finish this in April. I just need to like sit down and read it. So those are all the books that I read in March. I can't believe that I got through 22 books so quickly. So that is insane. So as always, if you like this video, I would love if you subscribed if you haven't already. Give this video a thumbs up, comment if you'd like, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!